Hi everyone, this is Rhonda Craig. I know you can hear my voice, but behind me or in the screen is the sheet, the bed sheet that I created as a visual aid to help teach this journey through the Bible. We're getting ready to do lesson number 32. It's actually the first lesson of the New Testament. And I hope you can see that, and I want to give you time to look at that. But I also want to say, if it's been a while since you have looked at lesson number 31, which is the time between the testaments, I'm going to ask you to stop this video, go back, and revisit that one, because it sets the stage for what's coming. The Old Testament has been the foundation upon which we are building. And we're venturing off now, getting ready to venture off into the most important part that I wanted to teach. I want to say again, I'm not a scholar. I hope my children, that you're watching this, grandchildren, I hope this will give you a foundation. Friends, new busy Christians, whomever God leads to watch these, I just pray that you will be benefited by the effort that I've put into this. As you can see, the sheet on the back wall is about our journey through the Bible. I'm just going to leave it up there, and I want you to start in the left-hand corner and look up there, and you'll see that you have Adam and Eve up there in the corner. That's the creation of the earth, and you can see the earth, everything. I wish that I was a better filmer or technician here, but I'm not. I'm doing the best I can. But as we trek through, you see the tree. They were in the Garden of Eden. Then you see the ark where Noah was, and the Tower of Babel. And trek on down through there, and you see Abraham, the tent where Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were. And then the road kind of takes a dip, because Jacob had 12 sons, and his name became Israel, and one of those sons, the 11th son, was Joseph. So we talked about Joseph, and he brought them down to Egypt, and it goes down, and then it makes a curve. And then they had the Exodus out of Egypt because they were enslaved. Moses led them out, crossed the Red Sea. They're going up that hill, clear up to the top of that first hill, where the table of stones are, up at the top there, Mount Sinai. And they were given to Moses, and the Levites became the priesthood, and they wandered around, and you'll see that curving, wandering around there for 40 years in the wilderness. And that's clear over on the left-hand or right-hand side. Moses dies, and then Joshua takes over, and that's the curve on the very left-hand side. I'm sorry, the right-hand side. Then we have the period of the judges, the period of the kingdom. Saul was the first one. The kingdom was taken away from his house and given to the house of David, and he was the second king. And then David's son, Solomon. But he was the last of the United Kingdom, and it was his son, Solomon, that continued on, Rehoboam. But it became divided, and the Judah was down in the southern part, and that's where the Rehoboam was king, and Benjamin. And then Rehoboam was the 10 tribes of the north, and they became known as the Israelites. So when you're reading the Old Testament and it gets to that part and they're referring to Israel, they're talking about the 10 tribes to the north. And basically they fell away from God pretty quickly, 254 years, and they were overcome by the Assyrians and carried off into captivity, and their land was occupied by the Assyrians, and they lost their identity, never to regain it again. Rehoboam, there was a lot of kings that another 100, I guess it was about 135 years maybe, that the divided kingdom, the southern kingdom survived. But then you'll see that foot where the chain is. That's when they were taken over by the Babylonians, and then you have the period of time when they were in captivity in Babylon, and it was during that time that that Daniel had that dream. And if you'll see that statue, that very large statue there, the head of that is gold, and that dream that he had was interpreted to Nebuchadnezzar, and he told about it, and it was going to be the rulers over God's people. The head was the gold, and that was the Babylonians, and then the breastplate was silver, and that was the Persians. With Cyrus came along, the Medo-Persians, and then the Greeks were the kind of the skirt-like thing there, and that was during the period of time when the Maccabees were there, and then the legs were the Roman Empire, and this was he told what was going to happen. But then you go on around the curve there, and you see that Zerubbabel rebuilt the temple, Ezra was the reformer, Nehemiah was, and Esther, the book of Esther was in there, and Nehemiah was sent to rebuild the walls. That was all under the Persian, the 70 years of that they were in captivity. But then that whole 400 years between those testaments, you'll see it's broken. That's what all happened, and in my last one I told you all about that, and we're getting ready now to embark on the New Testament. So I'm going to take that off there now, and I'm going to put it on me, and let you. We're going to talk about the New Testament now. I can always put this up, and you can always see it a little bit better. But I'm not going to do that tonight. I'm going to move on. Let you see this statue again that Daniel predicted, because we are down here, the Roman Empire, getting ready for the birth of Jesus. And remember in his dream that the feet were going to be of iron and clay. And he prophesied, or the dream that he interpreted said that this rock would destroy this whole statue, this whole imprisonment of his people. And that was what we know now as the birth of Jesus. So I want to talk about the New Testament and what it's about before we get started. I want to just show you what the New Testament is going to be about. I'm going to hold this up here. I hope that you can take a look at this. If you look at that, the New Testament, there's 27 books in the New Testament. Remember, there was 66 books in the Bible, and 27 of those are in this New Testament. And remember, I told you that another word for testament is covenant. So we're getting ready to start about the new covenant. If you look up at the very top, it's Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And those are called the Gospels. Actually, the first three, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, are called the Synoptic Gospels because they are all very much alike. They tell basically the same story about Jesus. Gospel means good news, and it's the life, the birth, the life, the ministry of Jesus. And John is a little different. And then the next one you see is Acts, and it's the Acts of the Apostle that tells how to become a Christian and about how the church flourished and how it was spread, and about how it was carried to all parts. Then the next 13 books of the Bible, Romans, 1 Corinthians, 2 Corinthians, Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, 1st and 2nd Timothy, Titus, and Philemon, are all letters that the Apostle Paul wrote to these churches. And those are the names of where those churches were established. And then the last 8 are just special letters like Hebrews, James, 1st and 2nd Peter, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John, Jude. Those were all just special letters telling you about basically how to live the Christian life. And then the last one was written by John, and it's Revelation. So that's basically where we're headed on the next, as we embark. I wanted to talk about the 4 Gospels now. The first one is Matthew, and it was written in about 50 A.D. Now you notice that's quite a little while after Jesus passed. After the fall of Jerusalem in 70 A.D., it was written to the Jews to prove that Jesus fulfilled the prophecies of the coming Messiah. And then Mark was the earliest. Actually, he wrote before Matthew. It didn't appear in the Bible the way they did. But Mark was supposed to have been written about 50 A.D., and it was published after the fall of Jerusalem in 70 A.D. I think I misquoted on Matthew. I think it was written about 50 A.D., but and was published after the fall of Jerusalem in 70 A.D. Mark was written to the Romans to present Jesus as a living man. Luke was the beloved physician, and he probably has the most complete biography of Jesus, and it portrays him as the Son of Man, full of compassion for the sinful and the poor. And see, those are the first 3. They're called synoptic gospels. And then the last one is John, and it was deeply spiritual. It's instruction and edification for the early Christians, and Jesus as the Son of God. Faith and eternal life is echoed throughout this book. And then you see down at the bottom, Acts is the story of what to do to become a Christian, origin and growth of the early church, and the ascension of Christ, and the imprisonment of Paul, and how Christianity spread, and the account of all the conversions, which are all our examples. I want to also remind you of something that I've told you earlier before. But when you're beginning to embark on the study of the Bible, which I hope this will inspire you to do just that. I have my phone here. I want to show you something. I'm going to show you how to do it so that you know how to do it. On my phone, I'm going to go to the internet, and I'm going to type in overview. Nope, excuse me. I'm going to type in YouTube. And go to YouTube. And when it comes up, I don't know if you can see that or not. When it comes up at the top, it says open. And I'm going to open that. And then there's a place to put in a search, and I'm going to search. And I'm going to write up here in the search window, overview. And I want to put in tonight, overview of Matthew. So, of Matthew, you could put any book in the Bible. And overview of Matthew, and then I'm going to put search. And when it comes up,
if you consider going solar in Oklahoma, but afraid
have to
of the
get
huge
rid of
price
those
tag attached,
ads.
most people don't know this, but almost
Have to get rid of those ads, and how do you do that? Huh. How did I do that? Well, anyway, the overview is not coming up, folks. Don't know why. Oh, yes, it is. And there's what it looks like. And they'll all look just like that. You see that little picture there? And when you click on that, what's Matthew all about? I'm going to click on that now.
The Gospel according to Matthew. It's one of the earliest official accounts about Jesus of Nazareth, his life, his death, and his resurrection. The book itself is anonymous, but the earliest reliable tradition links it to Matthew the tax collector, who was one of the 12 apostles that Jesus appointed, and he actually appears within the book itself.
He's drawing these pictures.
For about 30 to 40 years, the apostles orally taught and passed on their eyewitness accounts about Jesus, along with his teachings that they had all memorized.
I'm going to stop it now. I'm going to stop that now. That's just a very important thing that I think that you should know if you are a serious student of the Bible. And I hope that I've laid the groundwork so that you can become a serious student of the Bible. Now, when the New Testament opens, it's a very different scene than it was in Malachi when he's the last Old Testament writer. It's a very different scene. The Roman Empire is now in charge. But it was very interesting because the Romans, they had some very important possessions, holdings, or part of their empire. To the north, Syria and Egypt. And Israel, that country, Palestine as we know it, was right in the middle. And I think they wanted to use that more or less as a staging. And so they made a deal that said, if you'll just stay true to us and loyal to us, we'll leave you alone. We'll go ahead and let you have a token king. He can be a Jewish king, and we'll go ahead and let him rule over you. But he's a token king, and he knew it. He really didn't have much authority, but at least they were able to practice their own customs and their religion without being dictated to a great deal. And so Herod the Great was the king that they put in over that area. Well, when Augustus Caesar was getting ready to die, Herod had asked him to divide that. I believe it was Herod that asked him, don't hold me to that, but to his 3 sons. So his 3 sons, the whole country was divided up among his sons, and they were the Herods as well, and they had different names. One was Herod, I think I can say his name. The one that affected the Jews over Judea was Archelaus. That's how they said. I looked it up to see how to pronounce that. Archelaus, and the other son was, and he was there to about 6 A.D. And then Herod Antipas, and he was over the top part where Jesus was born, Galilee, and Herod Philip was over the non-Jewish people. They were just rubber stamp kings, is all they were. But they had to stay loyal, and they had to make sure the peace was kept. And basically that's what they did. And you're going to see more of how they ruled and everything. But when you talk about Jesus and the lineage of Jesus and the birth of Jesus, and how Herod responded when he learned of the birth of a king, and it talks about Herod, you think, well, is he in the line of David? No. There's many prophecies in the Old Testament that prophesied about the coming of a Messiah. The most prominent one was Isaiah. That and in my next one I will put that up. They prophesied where he would be born, how much about him, and even Daniel prophesied that this rock, that kingdom would never end. And so that's what the whole thing is getting ready to show us now, is the birth of Jesus, or the birth of the Messiah. And I'm going to reach really quickly. I'm going to let you look at this sheet again while I grab my Bible. Should have had it over here. And the most important thing about the birth of Jesus was his lineage, that he had to be from the lineage of David, King David. So I want to read this, and this is going to mean something to you because if you've listened to all the other ones, and it says, a record of the genealogy of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Now, it probably wouldn't have meant very much to you had we not gone through this trek of this Bible. And to be able to trace that lineage back all these 1,000 years is just incredible to me. Abraham was the father of Isaac, Isaac the father of Jacob, Jacob the father of Judah and his brothers, Judah the father of Perez and Zerah, whose mother was Tamar. I'm going to skip some of these. I'm going to keep going on down because I don't want to take all the time. Salmon, the father of Boaz, whose mother was Rahab. Remember Rahab? Boaz, the father of Obed, whose mother was Ruth. Remember Ruth? Obed, the father of Jesse. Remember Jesse was the father of David. Jesse was the father of King David. David was the father of Solomon, whose mother had been Uriah's wife. That's Bathsheba. Solomon, the father of Rehoboam. We just talked about Rehoboam. Rehoboam, the father of Abijah. And I'm not going to name all of those kings that were in his lineage that were in the divided kingdom. But it keeps going all the way on down till the time of Babylon. And it says after the exile to Babylon, you had Jeconiah was the father of Shealtiel, whatever it is, and he was the father of Zerubbabel. Remember, we talked about Zerubbabel going back and rebuilding. Zerubbabel, the father of Buid, or whatever his name is, and you just keep going on down, on down, on down, on down, on down. These we didn't talk about. So, and then it gets down to Mathan, the father of Jacob, Jacob the father of Joseph, the husband of Mary, of whom was born Jesus, who is called Christ. Isn't that incredible? We laid all that foundation so that there were 14, it says, thus there were 14 generations in all, from Abraham to David, and 14 from David to the exile to Babylon, and 14 from the exile to the Christ. Now that is incredible. Next time when we come, we're going to talk about the birth of Jesus. And no, it's not Christmas time, but we're going to talk about the birth of Jesus. I hope you got something out of this. If you didn't, go back and watch some of the others, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.